Let's talk camping memberships. This is a huge area of research if you're getting into the RV world. And obviously, it really depends on how you're planning on camping. If you're going to go full-time, if you're going to be over the weekend, if you're going to be seasonal, these are all things to factor in. But we're a full-time family, and so I did a lot of research trying to figure out the best thing for us and also not get us locked into something that, you know, in a couple of years from now would be hard to sell. So maybe that's a factor you've been looking into as well. Some of the best savings you can get are in lifetime memberships, but just kind of like, what's that word? Timeshare. When you're going to resell it, it can be almost impossible to sell what you've bought into. And if you don't sell it, then you're paying yearly dues. I did not want to get us stuck into something like that. So this is what I figured out. If you hear any nails, you can see Samson back here, but I have another little dog walking on the floor, Lucy. So I'm going to name, I think we have 3, 4, 5 memberships. I'm putting them in the order that I think are kind of like from best to worst, or from most used to least used, I guess I'd say it like that, because they're good for different things. So the number one campground membership that I think we couldn't do without in regards to savings, in regards to ease of use, is the Thousand Trails collection. So there's a couple ways to buy into this. I had really looked into buying the lifetime membership. I think it was the Odyssey plan. They have all these different packages. You can buy packages that were once sold that are no longer sold, and you can buy in, but you have to be careful how you buy in. Anyway, if you've started looking at Thousand Trails, there's a lot to learn, and it's hard to understand how the system works at first. However, that being said, this is the membership that we used hands down the most, and which I find the easiest to navigate. Thousand Trails costs about $585 a year if you're buying a pass. The reason I would suggest, if you're new to RVing, especially if you're new to RVing, and even if you're going full time, you might not be sure, you know, how long is full time? Is this a forever thing? Is this a couple of years? For us, we don't really know. So I didn't want to lock us in. I got the camping pass, which makes you, it divides it up, I think, by 5 or 6 zones: south, east, northeast, midwest, you know, and on and on. So you buy in at, I think, $585 a year, and then you can add a zone for an extra $50 a year. The reason I love this is because you can have that for 1 year, it drops, and you're done. You don't have to continue paying the dues, continue paying the memberships. The upside of this for me is that you get to stay 14 days in the system, and then you have to be out of the Thousand Trails system for 7 days, and then you can pop back into the system. The other thing that I absolutely love about it, and probably the reason I go there first, is because they have a map view of everywhere you're looking at. So if you know each city and each location you want to visit, you know, it's easy to look things up on other apps by city. If you're trying to explore a place you've never been before, I find that extremely difficult. I don't know what city is where in which state. And so having a map view where you can kind of see where each campground is placed overall, over a region, over a state, is so helpful. The other reason I love Thousand Trails is because it's the easiest to navigate for me by internet. So it's easy to book online. You never really have to make a phone call unless you have an issue with your reservation. The whole thing, especially if you don't like dealing with people, and numbers and dates can be confusing and hard when you're overlapping, it is their, hands down, their platform of making reservations. I find so awesome, so easy. $585 a year. Most of the time they have a $100 rebate or 20% off or something going, but right around there per year. And then what we did was we added this thing called the Trails Collection, which is an addition of $199 a year. And that gives you, I think, an additional 180 parks all over the nation. So even if you wanted to visit a Trails Collection park that wasn't in your zone, that's fine. The awesome thing about the Trails collection is that it is so comprehensive, especially for Florida. It seems like the Northeast has a ton of spots. It's awesome. The only way to get the Trails collection, however, is if you're already somehow a member with 1,000 Trails. So you have to buy in somehow. Same with the Zone Pass. The Trails collection lapses after that year. So if you want to repurchase again, great, but you're not locked into anything for a lifetime. I feel like this is a huge win in regards to getting you into the system, seeing if you like it before you buy a lifetime membership, which is a much bigger investment. It can be from between, it seems like $3,000 and maybe $8,000 to buy in. The benefit of buying into a lifetime membership is that you get to book further out. So I think it's 120 days you get to book, versus if you're doing the zone passes like what we're doing, we only have 60 days out to book. You also, if you're doing a lifetime membership, get to stay in for 28 days, up to 28 days, and then you can go straight into another 1,000 Trails park. So they're both great. I think if you're getting into RVing, the way to go is to do the, bite-sized piece first. And then if you don't like it, if it's not something you used, you don't have to keep paying dues on it, $600, $700 a year. You're done. So this is hands down the app we use the most. The second and third thing, I guess I'd put them both together. So that's 14 days in, 7 days out, and it's absolutely free. You're not paying anything once you're in the system, which is awesome. Okay, the next thing we did is because of that 7 days out, so 14 days into a park, now you're 7 days out, we would be driving maybe 2 or 3 hours, finding a park, staying there 2 or 3 days, going to the next place, trying to get and kind of wait out until our next 1,000 Trails opened up 7 days later. During those 7 days, we were spending a ton of money, because you're not going to get a great deal when you're staying in a park only for a couple of days. That's one. And two, when you're not using a membership, it's astounding how expensive things are. We started RVing kind of at the height of camping season, I guess, like summertime. And so everything was crazy expensive. It was, up to 70, 75, sometimes even more than that per night. Well, that's a lot. And so that week out was actually, man, we're blowing through quite a bit of money just waiting out for the next time we can get into the 1,000 Trails parks. And I kind of was tempted, like, okay, do we get into a whole other side of the membership? Like, should we go ahead and invest in the lifetime membership? And I'm still, even after doing the 6 months, not quite there. So I was looking for something else to supplement those weeks out. And I found something on, let me see where it is. It's called the RV. I'm going to link this below, but it's called the RVparkstore.com. And what it was is buying into 2 other campground memberships. One is RPI and one is Coast to Coast. And so what we paid was $12.95, and we paid that up front. This gave us access to a Coast to Coast Deluxe membership and also an RPI membership and also a home resort. So next year, when it renews, this is another big thing for me. I didn't want to, again, be locked into this membership for a lifetime. We'll pay $99 to the home resort, $119 for the RPI preferred, and I think $150 for the Coast to Coast Deluxe. So we paid $1,300 up front. That gives us access to RPI Deluxe and Coast to Coast. Now, why is this important? First of all, what you'll find when you're looking at the 1,000 Trails maps is that it's basically around the perimeter of the nation. That's great, but what do you do when you're camping somewhere else? Coast to Coast has a lot more parks throughout the middle of the nation, and so does RPI. It kind of balances out what you're doing. So for us, $1,300 may sound like a lot, but I'm not locked in. If I don't pay my dues next year, which would come to about $300, then the whole thing will lapse. These parks aren't free, but when I stay at an RPI park, I'm paying $10 a night or $15 a night if it's high season. Same with Coast to Coast, $10 a night. And in some places, I think we have paid $15. This still saves a ton of money. So on our week out, that's 7 days out, I could be paying $70 for the week instead of $70 a night. So you see how this can kind of add up. Again, if we RV for a year or 10 years, I'm still not locked into anything when I want to do something else. Make sense? So love these, and we've used them a lot. When we went to Canada, and I don't know if this is fully kind of how it's supposed to work, because we've gotten kind of conflicting reports on this. It would probably depend on whether it's a high season or not, whether it's a really busy season for the park or not. But we ended up, because we were so late to book, we just knew we had to go up north over the summer. We were so hot, we just had to get out of the heat. So we went up to Canada in Sherbrooke at an RPI resort, which is also a coast-to-coast resort. It takes both memberships. So I did 2 weeks through RPI at $10 a night, and then I said, well, can I book through Coast to Coast at the same park called Coast to Coast? And we booked through them. So we stayed in the same park for 1 month in Canada, and the whole thing was, you know, couple $100. I mean, how do you beat that? So when it comes to savings, if you're trying to do this in an economical way, I don't see how you could get out of using Thousand Trails, the Trails Collection, RPI, Coast to Coast. You're talking about a $2,000 upfront cost, basically, and that's your mortgage-ish for the year, you know, if that makes sense. So anyway, I don't think there's a more economical way to do it, but let me know. Let me know if you found something else. We have a couple other memberships. I don't use them near as much, and part of it is because we have a big fifth wheel, so I'm not apt to want to move every day or two. Now, if I was in a Class B or a Class C and it was a little easier to move, I think we might be on the move a little more than we are right now. We tend to stay in places 1 to 2 weeks, not 1 to 2 days. These memberships I'm about to mention would come in handy if you're moving a lot more. Passport America. It's $44 for the year, and it allows you to get 50% off on these campgrounds. Now, again, I don't know if it's because the only time we've really been RVing is through the high season, but I mean, we're just now into October, and it's a lot easier to get into parks most of the time. I mean, in general, although I've heard it's going to be a bit of a nightmare going into Florida for winter. So I'm sure it depends on all of these factors, the timing, time of year, and where you're going. But since summer has ended, we've had no problem getting into any park. We've had no issue with dates, nothing. Passport America, $44 a year. It gives you 50% off on campgrounds. My understanding of this is that it only gives you 50% off like 1 or 2 days. It's not like it gives you 50. If you decide to stay in a park that accepts Passport America, it's not giving you 50% off for your whole stay. Now, maybe that's wrong, and those of you who use Passport America more, especially not during the high season, weigh in the comments. Our understanding of this, because of the parks we've stayed in, they've given us that 50% discount, but most of the time it's just for 1 day or 2 days max. It's still good. If you're saving half on a campground stay, that's great. The next one, we don't use this hardly at all for camping, but I'm glad we have it. I think it came with our RV when we bought the RV, but it's Good Sam. And this one's so inexpensive, I don't see why you wouldn't get it. It gives you a few discounts. Good Sam is $29 if you buy for 1 year, $50 if you buy for 2 years, $75 if you buy for 3 years. And it gives you a 10% discount at over 2,400 Good Sam parks. I don't know. Maybe it's because when I stay in Thousand Trails, you know, I'm staying for free or I'm staying for $10 a night, but 10% of a discount on a park that's $70. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like, okay. I don't feel like that's a great deal. What it does also do is gives you a discount on gas or diesel if you're going through Flying J stations. I think my husband Larry probably does make use of that, but it's not like we're actively looking to only get gas at Flying J locations, so I don't know. And I think he also has a discount thing for the pilot stations. I don't know about that one. But we do use Good Sam for something else. We had a blowout on our way to Maine, and this came very much in handy. We had the Good Sam Roadside Assistance, and there's a couple of plans there. We had the lowest plan. I think it's called RV Standard, and it'll tow your vehicle. If something happened to the truck, they're able to connect to your RV and take your RV to the closest service station. So, I mean, these are things you want to make sure you have in place before you travel, in part because, yeah, maybe somebody could tow your truck, but they're not going to be able to tow your RV. So Good Sam is awesome for roadside assistance. The standard version was $64.95. Once we had the blowout, our guy who came and changed the tires said, if you bump up to the Platinum, RV Platinum Complete, which is now on sale for $119.95 per year, you're going to save so much money. I can come and replace the tire. I can put insurance on the tire. There's a whole bunch to it. I'd really recommend getting the RV Platinum Complete. We were able to upgrade our membership right there on the spot, and it actually saved us money. And, you know, I hope you never have a blowout, but the likelihood of it is high if you're on the road a lot. So these are the things we've used, and I'm really happy that we've gone with them. Sorry, Judah was hopping out. The thing I don't love about the RPI and also the Coast to Coast, you have to get onto these are two different websites. So I think it's coasttocoast.com, rpi.com. They're much harder to navigate through the website. They don't have a map view that's easily accessible. You can't even really book online. You need to book by calling. I hate calling. I just hate it. I don't know. Is anybody here like that? I just hate calling. I'd rather do the whole thing online if possible. You have to call. You have to use these kind of credits. If you do try and do it online, it's not like an immediate booking. They get back to you in, 5 business days or something crazy. It's just a little more cumbersome to book through Coast to Coast and RPI. That being said, I love that we have it, but it's not nearly as user-friendly and as accessible as Thousand Trails. And maybe it's meant to be that way. Like, one of the things I noticed with RPI is that you can't book on the spot. Like, say I'm coming into town and oh my gosh, I didn't book anything, Larry. I'm able to, right on my phone online while we're driving, book Thousand Trails for something that night. That's not the case for RPI. I think you need 2 days advance notice to book through RPI. So there's some differences. I'm glad we have it. It's super economical. It's definitely saved us money, and we've only had it a couple months. By the end of the year, we'll have saved so much money primarily trying to use these memberships that it's totally worth the cost. The only time we get out of the system is if we cannot find any availability in an area that we want to be in. I mean, that's the only reason we would. Most of the time, it seems like all of these campgrounds that we've been to so far, now we've mostly been on the East Coast and through Texas. Sorry if they're doing some work out on the lawn, so sorry. But most of these places are a little more rustic, a little more in the woods. You usually have to drive, 30, 45, even an hour to get into some great destination spot. I don't really mind that. When we stayed in New York, we stayed at the Liberty Harbor RV Marina. That was awesome. You're kind of right in the heart of things. But for the most part, I kind of like being out, being able to relax a little bit more, get school done, get life done. So these are a little bit more rustic places, but I love it. I love it so far. I think this is going to be exactly what you're looking for if you're trying to save money while RVing. Check these places out. Make sure you check the links below and see if this is something that's going to work for your family. I hope this was helpful. Talk to you soon. Bye.